As a racing game fanatic growing up in the 90s, I was exposed to a ton of great music while gaming. Whether it be 16-bit classics or later titles released on more capable hardware, one thing was for certain: games of this genre generally had fantastic music. Come take a trip down memory lane with me as we visit some of the best soundtracks that these racing games had to offer. Daytona USA would hit arcades worldwide in 1994, wowing gamers with its impressive 3D polygons, thrilling gameplay, and exciting soundtrack. Musical composer Takanobu Mitsuyoshi worked on titles like GP Riders, Virtual Racing, and Outrunners before taking the role as head composer for Daytona USA. This would become arguably his most famous role, not only playing a large part in the production of the instrumental library, but also providing vocals for the game's tracks, including
Roaring Star! Roaring Star!
The game's dance-inspired beats would fit the fast-paced racing action perfectly, and the often overly ambitious vocals are still widely remembered to this very day. When the game hit the Saturn, the soundtrack was given a digital overhaul, with the compact disc format allowing for more storage space. In turn, the previously lower quality voice clips were improved upon. While the game would see an upgraded version in Daytona USA Championship Circuit Edition, the music here wouldn't have the same impact as the first installment, featuring mostly instrumental dance numbers. The game's opening tune, however, would feature a song performed by American rock musician Eric Martin. Mitsuyoshi would return to provide production and vocals on the game's sequel, Daytona USA 2: Battle on the Edge, in Japan.
The race starts when two of us become one. Right, I feel my eyes. You have no choice but to race. There's no escape. No. Vision of my spirit. Vision of the engine. Direction of the tires. Kicking up the road.
While the Western version would feature the same songs and lyrics but performed by American musician Dennis St. James.
The race starts when two of us become one. Bright lights fill my eyes. You have no choice but to race. There's no escape. No.
While the game would still feature some of the dance elements heard in the first title, there would definitely be more emphasis on rock here. While not technically a racing game, Twisted Metal was a driving game that features some of the most fitting music for vehicular combat. Tracks here would be handled by Chuck E. Myers, whose talents would be heard on other titles such as Jet Moto and its sequel, Midtown Madness 3, Downhill Domination, Cars 2, Cars 3, amongst others, including many Twisted Metal sequels. And speaking of such, Twisted Metal 2, in my opinion, is one of the finest video game soundtracks of all time, featuring many different tracks that truly capture and translate each world. Tokyo Highway Battle is an early PS1 racer and part of a series of titles that would become Tokyo Extreme Racer. The game's soundtrack would feature inspiration by both dance-style music as well as rock, with many tracks featuring fast-paced drums and electric guitar. This game may not be the best racer around, but with a soundtrack like this, I can't help but to fire it up every now and then. Wave Race 64 took the industry by storm, featuring amazing 3D environments, a state-of-the-art water physics engine, and, in my opinion, one of the best original soundtracks of all time. Composer Kazumi Tataka, who had previously worked on Mario Paint, Super Mario Land 2, The Six Golden Coins, and Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, would handle production on this one. While the music is bubbly, a little cheesy, and filled with synth, it's just what the game needed and it fits the atmosphere perfectly. I played this game so much when I was young that these tracks are permanently seared into my brain, yet I still never get tired of hearing that glorious 64-bit goodness. Sega Rally Championship would be another 1994 arcade racing title from Sega to feature composition by Takanobu Mitsuyoshi. The 1995 Saturn port would feature a soundtrack of arranged arcade tracks and the inclusion of some new songs handled this time by Naofumi Hataya, such as the beloved Desert Replay track. And though Mitsuyoshi didn't contribute many lyrics for either version as he did for Daytona USA, we do get one short but sweet clip from the composer.
Game over, yeah!
As far back as I can remember, F-Zero has been a staple in my household when it comes to racing games. Even as a 6-year-old kid, I knew this soundtrack was really something special. The soundtrack was handled by two Japanese composers. Yumiko Kanji handled most of the game's tracks, like the game's opening race, Mute City. While Naoto Ishida would only produce two of the game's songs. One of them would be the now iconic Big Blue theme. Radmobile hit arcades in 1991 as a System 32 Sega arcade racing title. While the soundtrack featured some good tracks, it was the 1994 Sega Saturn home port that would showcase some truly remarkable musical pieces. Being a Japanese exclusive, this title features very guitar-driven, up-tempo melodic numbers. If you watched my soundtracks video on wrestling games, you'll notice an uncanny resemblance here to titles like the ones heard in WCW vs. the World. For my money, it really doesn't get much better than this. While San Francisco Rush might not be known for having the best soundtrack, it certainly sticks out in my mind as memorable, probably just due to the sheer amount of time I put into it. But nevertheless, there's just something that hits home with these tracks. There's even those that are so bad that they're good. Okay, maybe good isn't the right word. Regardless, the music only added to the overall experience of this game, and the soundtrack remains a classic in my book. How can you create a video about racing video game soundtracks and not include Outrun? That would be like not covering Mario Kart. Oh wait, what's that? We don't have Mario Kart on the list? Outrun was an instant classic, hitting arcades in 1986 and luring fans into its driver's seat as you venture across different locations in your convertible Testarossa. And if that wasn't cool enough for you, the game would feature a truly fitting soundtrack of songs composed by Hiroshi Kawaguchi, who had previously worked on titles such as Hang On and Space Harrier, and would later produce tracks for Afterburner, Power Drift, Wave Runner, and more. But it's safe to say Outrun was his biggest success, with hits like Passing Breeze. And don't forget Camino Mi Amor. The series would continue throughout the decades, also including memorable pieces, but it all started here, way back in 1986. Do you like surf music? If so, Jet Moto just might be the racing game for you. Just like Twisted Metal, this one was handled by Chuck E. Myers and features many different tracks of surf genre. The game also features some rock numbers similar to Chuck's work on the Twisted Metal games. In fact, the game shares a few tracks with Twisted Metal too. Jet Moto 2 would ditch the surf in favor for more variety, including influence from dance, island, rock, and even some orchestral pieces. Both of these titles have extremely enjoyable soundtracks that I still come back and listen to on a regular basis. In fact, I'm listening right now as I write this dialogue. British composer David Wise got his foot in the industry, landing a job with video game developer Rare in 1985. After working on many titles in his early days, including RC Pro-Am, WWF WrestleMania, Cobra Triangle, and Battletoads, to name a few, Wise would compose what would become one of the best gaming soundtracks of the 16-bit era, Donkey Kong Country. After 2 more entries in the series, David's next venture would be 1997's Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64. While the game's soundtrack would feature some resemblance to the Donkey Kong Country games, the tracks here are a little more lighthearted and upbeat. The game would even feature some tracks inspired by Christmas music to coincide with Snowflake Mountain, a snow-covered winter-themed world. As a kid playing this for the first time on Christmas Eve in 1997, that one just brings back so many memories. A 42-track original soundtrack to the game would be sold exclusively in Japan and Germany, and while a US version was released, the number of tracks was cut to just 16. This is one of those racing games that just checks every box for me, and I can't deny that it's one of my favorite gaming soundtracks. Before Daytona USA and Sega Rally Championship, Takanobu Mitsuyoshi would handle the music for Virtua Racing, a 1992 Sega arcade racer. This one is rather unique, as the game doesn't feature full-length tracks, but rather shorter jingle-like songs that play when passing checkpoints or earning fastest lap times. These are extremely catchy, and I would have loved to hear some full-length versions in the game. Though there have been many ports of this one, the original arcade jingles are still my favorite to this day. Stunt Race FX is a racing game that brings back memories of Saturday morning video game binges. While the game may not hold up well in the current day, this was quite the impressive title when it was released in 1994. The game's soundtrack would feature many upbeat, almost Disney opening theme style tracks. Some of these pieces are truly 16-bit classics. Each level was paired with a seemingly perfect theme that fit the atmosphere and really made you feel each environment. Do you smell that? It smells like the road is burning. I reviewed Burning Road in the past, and while I believe this game is truly a sleeper, I think the soundtrack is even more so. The game features heavy guitar riffs and pounding drum rhythms that truly complete the mid-90s racing game experience. What kind of racing game list would this be if I didn't include Cruisin' USA? Well, and don't answer that. I know not many out there love this series as much as I do, but you can't deny the fact that these games had some pretty catchy tracks throughout its history. Vince Ponarelli, now working for 2K, most recently as the audio director for the WWE 2K series, was a Midway employee at the time and was responsible for the music heard in Cruisin'. The versatile sound here features music from all sorts of genres like dance, classic western, surf, and of course, rock. This is honestly just the tip of the iceberg. I could probably make a dozen videos covering racing game soundtracks. There are just so many good ones out there. I'd like to hear about some of your favorite racing game songs. Let me know in the comments section, and of course, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. I thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.